about my anger issues, I understand.
Mr. Tate, we
I
are
understand.
the parole board.
I'm not getting eligible for parole because I have anger issues.
You need to listen when we're speaking, Mr. Tate.
No parole for Tate.
Okay.
No parole for Tate.
So.
No parole for Tate. None.
Okay.
Mr. Tate is not getting parole because of anger issues. That's what's going on here. No parole.
Well, this is going to be interesting. We are about to watch the full parole hearing out of the state of Connecticut for a man who is serving 10 years and 6 months for serious injury of an elderly person and also possession of a firearm. Let's jump in, and at the end, I'll unpack the details.
Your name and inmate number for the record.
Raheem Tate, 339-558.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration for a parole application for Raheem Tate, 339-558. He is serving a sentence of 10 years, 6 months parole for assault versus carrying anything dangerous weapon, assault public safety officer, assault third of an elderly person. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of April 5th, 24. There's no commitment in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed. It shows the offender has completed anger management, alternative to violence, and alternative to violence advance. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system scores, the offender overall score for recidivation falls in the high range. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you should be granted parole. Baby Ed.
Mr. Tate.
What'd you say?
We need to hear from you why you think you should be granted parole.
I felt like, I did enough time, been through enough incidents, where I had to hold my head and stuff like that. So as far as like getting out earlier, that's one of the reasons why I think I should be granted parole. And on top of that, like, I got too much going for me in my life. So that's the other reason.
Okay. Well, the way it's going to work today, Mr. Tate, can you turn around and look at us so that we know you're hearing what we're saying?
Turn around and look at what?
Can you look at us so that we know that you hear what we're saying?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to take turns to ask you questions. And then when we're done, we will deliberate on the record and then tell you what our decision is. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to ask Mr. Cole to begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Mr. Tate.
Morning.
So you had the chance of taking anger management and alternative violence during this incarceration, right?
Yeah.
And you did that in 2017 and 2019, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell me why what happened last February happened?
You talking about the assault incident?
Uh-huh.
In Corrigan?
Yes.
All right. They got certain rules in their cafeteria where they want you to fill in all their seats or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So one of the staff members, or COs, I should say, was pointing me to fill in the seat. And I told him, step to the side so I could sit down. So he continued to tell me sit in the seat while he's blocking the seat. So that's how the physical altercation happened. It made more sense for him to move out the way and let me sit down. Like, I don't know if this dude has, mental issues or what, but he should just got out the way and let me sit down. You can't block this seat and tell an inmate to sit down.
Okay, but I'm What I read was that while you were supervising the restricted housing unit, escort Tate was secured in handcuffs when he intentionally struck the supervisor with a kick to the, well, wait a minute, I'm sorry. That wasn't last February, that was 2 years before, where you intentionally struck the supervisor with a kick to the left side. Was that you?
You got me confused now, because I specifically asked you, was this incident in Corrigan? You said, yeah. I have not kicked a staff member in Corrigan. Okay, I kicked a staff member in Cheshire.
So why I'm confused, right? Because you have 22 disciplinary reports and a bunch of them involve violence, right? So I'm sorry that I got which time you assaulted a DOC person. I'm sorry I got mixed up on you. So let me go back and take a look here. So what you're talking about is just a flagrant disobedience. Or
can I ask you something real quick?
Yep.
All right. You want me to explain what happened in a certain incident, right?
I want you to explain. Here's what I want you to explain. Just let me cut to the chase. You took programs in 2017 and 2019. There were alternatives to violence and alternatives to violence advanced, right?
Yeah.
And you also took anger management. But in the meantime, it's like since then, it's like there's been like a couple of assaults on a DOC employee, threats, and fighting and such, right?
Yeah, you want me to explain the cause of these?
What I'm trying to get was, if you took the programming, why is the behavior still continuing?
Because like they're like you want me to sit there and explain all of them or just one of them? Because I could do either or.
No. In general, what I want to know is why is it that in 2017 and 2019 you took programming that dealt with?
I understand what you're saying. So you want me to start from the top and explain the first incident off the top?
No, I don't want you to even talk. Don't even talk to me about incidents. Why is it that you took the programming and the behavior is continuing to happen? That's what I want to know, right? Because when you go to DOC and you do programming, right? Isn't it so that the behavior changes? Right? Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to get at, So why is it that the behavior continues to happen?
Well, probably because, certain people shouldn't be in the same area as me. You get what I'm saying? They got people like all type of mental issues and stuff like that the staff member in the facility knows that they not fully recovering from the mental issues and stuff like that. That has happened several times. The person is explaining that they have a mental issue. The person is telling them they don't want to be around anybody. It's almost like they telling the staff member that it's about to be a physical altercation and stuff like that. So this person tells me that before I get in the cell, and then I'm telling the staff member like, oh, well, he's saying his issues. Like, I don't think I should go in the cell with him. He's like, no, everything's fine. Go in the cell, yada, yada, yada. So boom, I go in the cell with this guy, and he does, something that's close to like a sexual assault. So now who's to blame for that? And you telling me to go in the cell with him. blame the staff member for that. So after he does this certain incident or whatever, I get out the cell, I get moved to a single cell, then a staff member comes and questions me about what's going on. I'm like, there's nothing going on. Y'all did the best y'all could do. Y'all moved me out the cell to a single cell. The situation is over. So like, they're instigating the situation and stuff like that. And the situation was already resolved. So now they're placing me in handcuffs for no reason. I'm like, why are you placing me in handcuffs? Like, the problem solved. I told you there's no issues now. So why are you still instigating? Like, I know you most likely should be well educated and you should have had enough sense to just leave the situation alone. So now it's like you got yourself into that situation. So if you need me to be more specific.
No, I mean, what I'm trying to get at, and really, I mean, it's like, what we're trying to do is figure out if you're suitable for parole in the community, right? Discretionary parole.
All right.
Because the judge in his wisdom already put you on 8 years of special parole, right? But what we're trying to do is discretionary parole is really something that's earned, right? And what we look for here is, have you done programming that's changed the behavior that wound you up here, right? And what I'm looking at is that the behavior that wound you up there is, you know, is angry, assaultive kind of behavior. And then we look at the DRs, which some people say they really don't indicate what's going to happen in the community. But if you were doing assaultive behavior before you got here, and then the angry assaultive behavior continues, what's going to happen on discretionary parole? And that's what I'm trying to find. And, you know, it's like, I'm
all right, I get what you're saying. You're saying like, all right, you took anger management classes. It seems like it doesn't work. That's what you're saying?
That kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Anger management and alternative to violence. Basic and advanced, right?
All right, that's all you're saying, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now, as a staff member in a correctional facility, staff members learn that people with high mental health issues do not work well with people that never had mental health issues. This is where the problem is at with one of them. With one of these assault on DOCs, that was the cause of the problem.
Mr. Tate, can I stop you? So those issues are not, we're addressing your behavior, not another inmate or not another staff person. We're focusing today on your disciplinary reports. And my colleague, Mr. Cole, is asking, you completed 3 programs.
Yes, I understand.
But there's been no change in your behavior.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we got everything clear now, right? You saying the anger management classes was not working. You seem to be angry. That's what you're saying, right?
That's what it looks like in front of me.
Just be clear. Let's just be clear. The anger management classes was not working.
Right.
Now, my reason for them to not be working or whatever is like, you know, out the window. It doesn't matter. You saying I should have control of myself. That's what you're saying. No, not you. In the middle, you, that's what you're saying, right?
That's what we're both saying.
Right.
Yeah.
We're saying the same thing.
That's what we're both saying, because the last thing that we want to do is waste the parole officer's time, put you out on discretionary parole for 5 minutes to get you brought back in until September of 2025. So that's what we're trying to get at. So if we're wasting our time,
you're not asking me what's the cause of the anger issues or nothing. You're just explaining that, oh, you have anger issues. It doesn't seem like we could do anything for you. That's what you're saying.
No, that is not what I said. What I said was, you had the programming. Why is the behavior continuing? And I'm getting nothing from you except this other guy did this. So I still reacted the same way, right? If somebody's got a mental health issue, somebody's got, just in the real world.
Excuse me.
If somebody's got a mental health issue.
I'm talking politely here, excuse me.
No, Mr. Tate. Mr. Cole is speaking, so you need to listen to what he's saying.
If somebody's got a mental health issue, right?
Right.
You get that they have a mental health issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's not their fault. So we try to do a little bit more if we have our faculties about us, because somebody else is struggling with something. It's not all about us, right? And that's what's happening out here. And if I'm looking at what happened when you were out here, it doesn't seem that you get that, right? It's not all about us all the time. It's trying to understand other people and trying to give people the same kind of.
I understand the anger management class is not working. Anger management is not working for me. Understand that. So let's move on.
So
let's move on.
You know what? I'm done. This isn't going to work out in terms of discretionary parole for me, because we can't even have a conversation. So I don't even want to put a parole officer through that on discretionary.
Right. Okay. So for me, Mr. Tate, you
have anger issues. Mr. Tate has anger issues. That's it. We can't work with Tate. He's an angry person. That's it. It's true.
Can I speak now?
No.
If you're going to continue to talk about my anger issues, I understand.
Mr. Tate, we are the parole board.
I'm not getting eligible for parole because I have anger issues.
You need to listen when we're speaking, Mr. Tate.
No parole for Tate.
Okay.
No parole for Tate.
So.
No parole for Tate. None.
Okay.
Mr. Tate is not getting parole because of anger issues. That's what's going on here. No parole.
Are you finished?
Be an adult, and tell Mr. Tate he has no parole. That's all you gotta do. That's where you're going. You're not.
Okay.
You're not being an adult right now. It's obvious. I'm being an adult. All that stuff, that's not an adult-like situation.
Mr. Tate.
It's too obvious to see what's going on here. Too obvious.
And what is that?
Now your position in power is obvious. My position in power is obvious. People don't follow instructions and get themselves in a wrong situation. It happens every day, every 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds.
So,
you
Mr.
don't
Tate,
follow instructions.
You're going to have to stop and listen so that we can tell you what our decision is. Okay? And it's obvious. I know your decision. It's obvious. Excuse me. You need to not say anything more and listen to what we have to say. Okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So in the case of Raheem Tate, inmate number 339.
Madam Chair, I just want to input.
Go ahead.
So it's obvious that we just tried to get through to Mr. Tate, who now left the room. And there was no getting through. He had taken anger management and alternatives to violence well before the disciplinary reports on that involve fighting and assault on DOC employees. Releasing him on discretionary parole is just, for me, it's out of the question. I hope that somebody sits him down and explains that if this kind of behavior continues on special parole, that you'll be sitting your 8 years back inside and not the community. You know, but the situation is that you just can't respond to other people in a violent way. That's why the prison system exists, and that's why parole exists. So, based upon that, what I have no alcohol, halfway house placement, mental health evaluation and treatment is deemed necessary, acknowledging that it's a 1. However, there's something more going on here that needs to be dealt with. Anger management, no contact with victim LW, and my denial reason, nature and circumstance, inadequate evidence that you change in forms adjustment.
I had criminal history, inadequate evidence of offender change because he took program for institutional adjustment.
That's fine. That's fine.
What was the other one?
Nature.
Okay.
Criminal history.
So I will give you my reasons. So I looked at Mr. Tate's criminal history, and I looked at his behavior during incarceration. Nothing has changed. He took the appropriate programs, anger management, alternative to violence, both basic and advanced, and his behavior continued based on the 22 disciplinary reports he received. So for me, his behavior outside continues on the inside. So those are my reasons for denial. Mr. Doc.
So anyways, here's the skinny. Mr. Tate first came into the interview not looking at us. We had to look for him to engage. And as our questioning went on, he says, I'm not going to get parole. And he walked out of the interview prior to us giving him our reasons or talking about it. So he was argumentative throughout the whole process, especially with you, Mr. Pohl, just trying to give him the opportunity to get to the bottom. And by the time it got to Chairwoman Chance, it really went downhill and he walked out. So I don't want to be repetitive. Both of you are already, I'm on the same page.
So it's victim LW, and did we want to put the tenant?
No. DOC.
Okay.
Yeah.
No alcohol, behavior management for anger management, MHE valid treatment, and halfway house.
Yeah. Halfway house, alcohol, mental health eval, victim.
In the case of Raheem Tate, inmate number 339558, there is a motion to deny request for discretionary parole for these reasons: nature and circumstances of a current offense, criminal history, inadequate evidence of offender change, and poor institutional adjustment. And as a notation, Mr. Tate was not present for us to tell him what our decision is. He got up and walked out before we were able to deliberate on the record and give him our decision. And because he has 8 years of special parole, there is a motion to grant to set the following special parole conditions: no contact with victim LW, no consumption of alcohol, behavior management for anger management, mental health evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary, and release to a halfway house. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye.
This includes the hearing for Raheem Tate 39558.
It's like when you think you've seen it all. I don't know at what point that line will lose the weight that it carries, but I'm going to continue to use it as long as it carries weight. And frankly, it does, because legitimately, authentically, when you think you've seen it all, you see something you haven't. And here is another case where you have the parolee who is up in front of the parole board. He comes in slouching. He comes in with the strangest attitude. We have seen a lot, but nothing like this. And he does have things riding on it. Now, he was sentenced to 10 years. He's going to get out on special parole on November 1st of 2025, which is in, I don't know, I guess that's a little bit more than a year. So he has time riding on it. Actually, it's almost, a year and 8 months. So he's got time riding on it. And then not only that, but the parole board set the conditions for this special parole. They set the terms. Now he has to go to a halfway house. He has to take certain programs. He has to have the evaluation. And so he had a lot to lose. This wasn't the case where some people can go up for parole and they make a decision. I'd rather not have to deal with the parole conditions. I'll serve out the time. I have a good job. There's no calculations here. I don't think. Now, what special parole is when in Connecticut, it's different in Louisiana. They give you a sentence, and then the judge says you're basically automatically getting a parole on a certain date, and it's special parole. And the parole board has the right to parole you earlier than the special parole. But the special parole is fixed in stone. And in many cases, it's quite frustrating because you see people with these 2-year sentences and then 8 years, special parole. In this case, he got a pretty hefty sentence, 10 years and 6 months, 10 years for what he did, seriously harming an elderly person, and 6 months for carrying a weapon. And it looks like he's going to serve every second of that sentence. But when he comes into the hearing, and it's interesting to hear the parole board member kind of shoot back when, I mean, he says to Tate, Andrew Tate, right? He says to him, well, you were talking about my disciplinary action at this facility. And then, like the parole board member just couldn't they handled it as, in terms of keeping things together better than I ever could, which is a different argument. I wonder if they should have ever let him go on the way that he was going on. I bring up Louisiana over and over and over again because we have covered well over 1,000, maybe going on 1,500 Louisiana parole hearings. It's on for those of you not familiar, check it out in the description. It's another channel with many more hearings. And the Louisiana Parole Board wouldn't put up for it. I mean, the second the guy would have started his antics, they would have just ended the hearing. And here in Connecticut, they put up with things for much longer. I mean, they were moving on ending it, but it's a different culture or different approach. For some reason, we have seen so many hearings already in Connecticut where they just allow. We had one hearing where the inmate was literally cursing in every type of foul language imaginable in his parole hearing. And they never once said, you're probably not a good idea. Probably shouldn't curse. You should watch your language. No, they just let him do it, which is bizarre to me. It's like they coddle them as if they're children. That's really what it feels like. It feels like they're, and not in the good sense, because you should explain what the best practices are if it was children. You should say, you shouldn't do that. And they don't, certain things that you want to be in your best behavior. When you're applying to rent an apartment, you're talking to the potential landlord, you're on your best behavior. When you have a job interview, you're on your best behavior. When you're going up for parole, you should be on your best behavior. You are displaying your absolute best form possible. And it's shocking to me how so many don't seem to understand that, and how the parole board doesn't seem to be affected by it at all. They kind of just allow it. Now, in this case, they were affected. They were pretty annoyed, which they should be. I think they put up with it for far too long. I'm sorry. I forgot which time you assaulted a DOC person's 22 write-ups. And something else which was funny, it's funny. I'm only now realizing I have these glares in my glasses. I don't know how long I've been doing this and totally kind of spacing out that there's these big lights pointing at my eyes, and I don't know how I'm going to fix it. Anyways, let me know if it bothers you or not. I did get another pair of glasses. See these that don't glare as much, but they're too small. I got them online, and then they came in. I'm like, oh god, these are way too small. So, it was fascinating how they bring this up. You took programs in 2017 and 2019. So why are you still fighting? I can't understand how it's possible that you would take programs and still fight. It's like they're so drunk on the Kool-Aid that programs are supposed to solve all problems. There obviously are people that it cannot solve problems for. And then he brings up the judge in his wisdom put you on special parole. And I wonder if that was almost a bit of sarcasm. I mean, let's be real. He's not going to last. I wonder if he'll even last a week or two on special parole. And that means he's going to be backing up 7 years. He'll get revoked, and they might not, he's going to have to serve all 7 straight. They sometimes just revoke for a certain amount of time, and then you get to go back out. But for anyone who needs to see, or you think needs to see, someone who is incarcerated, that I think you can make the argument simply will not succeed on the outside. I think this is it. Now you might argue, well, he might have psychological issues. He might have this. He might have that. Maybe he needs to be medicated, and that's possible. Although, the DOC is supposed to identify those things. So I like to always go over some type of statutes. This is the crime that he was convicted of. And thank you, Richard, for sharing all this information, as always. 2022 Connecticut General Statutes, Title 53A. A person guilty of assault in the first degree with the intent to cause serious physical injury to another person. He causes such injury to such a person or to a third person by means of deadly weapon or dangerous instrument with the intent to disfigure another person seriously and permanently. So this is a serious charge. And when you get 10 years in Connecticut, 10 years, 6 months, and 8 years special parole, you know that it's a serious charge because they're pretty lenient with their sentences. Or to destroy, amputate, or disable permanently a member or organ of his body. He causes such injury to a person or to a third person, or under circumstances evincing an extreme indifference to human life, that he recklessly engages in conduct which creates risk of death to another person and thereby causes serious physical injury to another person, or 4, with the intent to cause serious physical injury to another person, and while aided by 2 or more other persons actually present. He causes such injury to such a person or to a third person with the intent to cause physical injury to another person. I love how this. Okay. Such a person to a third person by means of discharging a firearm. Now, he got 10 years for this plus 6 months for a firearm. So it's possible that he shot someone. I mean, that could be the most concise way of saying maybe what happened. And he took a plea deal. He didn't go to trial. So instead of attempted manslaughter, they gave him this plea deal. That could be my guess. But it's just a guess. We have no idea. There's no public information on his sentence, on what he did. It was something he did in 2015, and then he didn't get the sentence until 2017, if I understand correctly. But before I forget, so I don't know if you picked up while they were deliberating, you see a man back here. You see him right there? And I don't know if you noticed, but he was peeking through and he had that yellow jumpsuit, but he took off the yellow jumpsuit. See, here he is with the yellow jumpsuit. Now, the yellow jumpsuit apparently is a way that they classify prisoners. And we cover his parole hearing. I'll put at the end of this, something's going to pop up that's going to point this hearing if you want to see it. I think you should check it out because it's also quite something that you think you've never seen before. He took his yellow jumper off, hoping the parole board wouldn't notice because it classifies him as being like a high security prisoner or something like that. He's not cuffed, but it classifies him. You don't want to show up to a parole hearing in a yellow jumper. And he takes it off, and as you can see here, but they realize what he did, and he has to put it back on. So it didn't work out for him. I'll link it in the description, or maybe we'll even, if this is a live stream, a premiere, maybe we'll go straight to it. I'm not sure how I'm going to play it out yet, but wanted to let you know. And again, thank you, Richard. And with that, I'll let you go.